Well, hello there. It's me again. From the tour, I've got to thank you all for being so great on this tour. Fuck me, you've been amazing. I was hoping for a good response because I know that I can rely on you to a certain extent. But fuck me, the response was way better than any of us thought. You've really accepted this new lineup, and I can't tell you what that means to all of us. You've really accepted the new album, and that means everything to me. And the future just is giving me a fucking chubby, to be honest. So I'm going to go straight in with these questions. And the first one I've been sent from The Seas. A bit of a controversial one here. It's been obvious that CJ is writing songs about you, with some not so nice accusations about taking all the money, and you are returning the favour with maintain radio silence. Would you ever let CJ's solo band support the Wildhearts as an act of goodwill, or is the relationship dead in the water? And that's from The Seas. Fucking hell, there's quite a lot to unpick there. First of all, maintain radio silence isn't about CJ at all. Right, well, this probably deserves a little bit of explanation, because I have heard a few people label this accusation against me about taking some money from CJ or Danny. Right, I'll set the picture. I wanted to leave the Wildhearts about just before we broke up. I wanted to leave and go solo, because what I can do when the Wildhearts aren't going is book solo shows. When the Wildhearts are going, I can't book solo shows because no one gives a shit. They want the Wildhearts to play. So I said to them, instead of leaving, I will play the songs. I'll perform like a session player, and you pay me what I make from the solo shows. And everyone agreed. Everyone agreed on this. It wasn't me demanding anything. Everyone was okay about it. And I relinquished then my role in any management of the band, and I left it to Rich and CJ to manage the band with our manager Andy Farrell. I played I played a few shows under this arrangement, and I wasn't very happy about it, but you know, I was making some money. After 30 years of service writing the songs, I thought I deserved something. It wasn't even that much money, but it was what I would normally make from the solo shows. I figured, you know, I deserved something for this service for writing all these fucking songs. But the first management decision they made was to fire Danny. At which point, you know, I was just like, this is just ridiculous. I just don't want to do this. And there was loads of really shit merchandise coming out. Right. Not everybody appreciates good merchandise, but I have always prided myself and the band on having great merchandise. And I find the artists and arrange deals. Well, I'd said to the band, I'll find the artists, but I would like a finder's fee. I think I wanted £100 a design or something, which got turned down for their in-house artists or something. And the quality of the designs just went down, and there was jigsaw puzzles and socks and stuff like that. And I was just like, you know, I love art. This is not what I wanted to do. After the firing of Danny, I was just like, this is just nothing to do with anything. And I decided I didn't want to do it anymore. I still left all of the merchandise with the band to try and claw some money back together. But I wasn't collecting a wage during the whole of this process. The band were on a wage. This is the bit where I don't get why they think I stole money. They were getting paid, and I was getting paid independently as an independent contractor, singing the songs that I fucking wrote. It reached a point where there was no real relationship, there was no communication, and the whole thing just felt like shit, not like the Wildhearts. And I decided I wanted to leave. And my only regret was I didn't leave when I wanted to, which was about 4 months to 6 months before. I can't remember. It was confusing time. I wish I just left. But I figured, well, you know, loyalty to the band, loyalty to the fans, you know, loyalty to the thing we call the Wildhearts. I'll try and figure some way of doing this. And yeah. That is the story behind that. I didn't steal any money. They paid me to sing the fucking songs that I wrote. So, you know, there's been times when I considered getting CJ back. in the future and stuff. But he's been writing such insulting stuff that, no, it would never work. Yeah, our relationship isn't really a relationship. We haven't got on for a very, very long time. I wish him all the best. I've got nothing but respect for everything that he does. But do I want to be around him? No, because like I've said before, it was like a marriage where the only thing you're together for is sex. And for 90 minutes, we went on stage and we sounded great, we played great, blah, blah, blah. And the rest of the time was just fucking miserable. And he was miserable as well. So it was not just like me having a diva strop. Neither of us were getting on. No one should work under those fucking circumstances. Anyway, that's the story. Would I get CJ's solo band support in the Wildhearts? Of course not. It would just be fucking unpleasant. The fact that he's insulted Ben. He's wrote a song about Ben called Bent. All Ben did was leave his band to join the Wildhearts, which is exactly what CJ did at the same age as Ben was, or is, when CJ was in the Tattooed Love Boys. And he did that, and he's been really insulting about John, saying like he's not a Wildheart, and there's only two bass players that you would play with a Wildheart, which is Scott, which I agree, but Scott's really bad, really ill, and Danny and CJ never fucking got on as well. It's just a load of fucking drama. But at the end of the day, I didn't rip anyone off. I got paid to sing my songs, a fee that we all agreed with that I would normally make from playing solo, which I couldn't do when I was in the Wildhearts. I hope that goes somewhere. If there's anything in there that you want to pick apart and ask me about, go ahead. I've got nothing to hide. Nothing to hide. I haven't done anything untoward, and if anyone thinks that I've done anything untoward, get in touch with me. CJ could fucking get in touch with me and say, I think you owe me this much, but nothing. In fact, when I asked him to join the band, he didn't reply. So, yeah, anyway. I couldn't give a fuck, I'm really happy. CJ seems to be really happy now with his own band. What's the problem? We're both doing much better than we were together. I think the only problem here is CJ probably regrets his decision not to do the band again. That's my take on it. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of backlash, but I look forward to it because, like I say, I'm not dealing with anything but the honesty as I see it, the truth as I see it, and I've got nothing else. But I've got such a bad memory, I can't even keep up with lies. So you'll not hear me lying about anything because I'm a fucking shit liar because I can't remember anything. So all I can do is speak the truth as I see it. I have been accused of being pathologically honest in the past, which is way more accurate than thinking that I'm doing anything skullduggerous. Listen, all I want to do is prove myself with fucking music and with performance. And if I fall on either of those, I'm a fucking bullshitter. And the rest of it is just a load of crap I just got no fucking time for, And, I've heard CJ say a few times, I don't think about the Wildhearts at all. Well, why does he keep talking about it all the time? I don't think about CJ at all, and I don't talk about him, apart from answering this question. I'm sure he's got something else to say about it, but as far as I'm concerned, he agreed to pay me, and I got paid. And eventually, it just seemed like a load of bullshit because I wasn't involved in it, and I left. My only regret is that I didn't leave sooner. What was the story with Brides of Destruction? Other than those two Bride songs, are there any songs you've written for artists other than yourself? That's from Edward. I've written loads of songs for other artists. I wrote a lot of songs for Michael. I wrote a lot of songs for Jason and the Scorchers. I've written songs for Backyard Babies. Varying degrees of good result, if you like. Now, the Backyard Babies thing was really contentious because they took 50% of the royalties and the management didn't pay me, and then the manager fell down some stairs in Nottingham Rock City and died. I loved this fucking guy. I really liked this guy. And when he died, we fell out, which is, again, why I don't want any bad terms with anyone who doesn't want bad terms with me. I've got no time for fucking grudges or anything like that because life is precious. You don't know when any of us are going to be fucking snuffed out like that. So the Backyard Babies thing was a little bit of a bone of contention. I think we're both over it now. They made a lot of money. I made fuck all. It's just, it's the cost of an education. The Brides of Destruction thing was so weird because I was going to move to Australia and form a bar band after the Wildhearts had imploded, after that the whole Wildhearts Must Be Destroyed Darkness thing. And Scott Sorry called me and he went, "Hey, guess what? I'm Nikki Sixx." And I was like, "What?" He went, "I've just got Nikki Sixx's job in the Brides." And I was just like, hang on a second, Scott Sorry, Tracy Guns, that sounds like a fucking pretty good band. I don't really care who else is involved. Turns out Scott Coogan was involved with drums, who's a fucking awesome drummer and a fantastic singer. And London Legrand was just learning the steps, but the potential was there. And so I was just like, well, I'm going to come over to LA instead of going to Australia. And Scott's like, "I don't think Tracy wants another guitar player." And I'm saying, "Well, let me be the judge of that." And I went over there and talked myself into the job, as I've done quite a few times with people. And I was staying at Tracy's house. It was a fucking great time. I liked Tracy a lot. I liked his missus that he was with at the time. He was living in a trailer park. I'd never been to a trailer park with a view of the fucking beach. I mean, I was loving this thing. It got to a point where I'd been there too long and I had to move on. And so we were both looking for places for me to stay. And one of the places was a trailer park, but it was a ranch. It was called the Phoenix Ranch. And it was run by Reverend Fred, who was a religious fella. Well, I went to see this place. I had the worst hangover. And I went to see this place, which was originally I was going to live in a caravan or a trailer. But there was this big lodge house. Now, this lodge house had such a history. It used to be a country studio, and then it got a load of families move in, and one of the kids apparently accidentally set fire to it and killed everyone in there. So this lodge was only used for weddings. The Reverend Fred was ordained to marry people, so he would have a lot of weddings, and they'd have like parties in there and stuff. Amazing place. So I went down here with the biggest hangover I've ever had, and Reverend Fred was showing me around the grounds. Well, he had a sweat lodge with an energy vortex next to it. Now, this sweat lodge was built around, and the whole thing was built around this energy vortex. So I was just like, I don't know, energy vortex. But he sat me in the sweat lodge, started a fire, all this fucking crazy smokes going on. This energy thing, well, anyway, it killed my hangover. And I'm just like, this place is magic. I went back and we talked about me moving into the lodge, the huge lodge house, instead of one of these trailers. And I don't know what happened between my hangover and everything, but the Reverend Fred started crying. And I was like, "Everything all right?" And he was like, "Yeah." He just looked in my eyes and he said, "You've got like I won't even use the words that he used because it sounds so fucking over the top and it sounds like I'm fluffing myself. But he liked the look in my eyes. And so he gave me the lodge house. The band had been kicked out of their rehearsal place. We won't go into why, but the gear was out on the street. One of those rare nights where it was starting to rain. And I says to Reverend Fred, "Can we just move all the gear into the lodge?" He said, "Yeah." So we bundled on a van, moved it into the lodge, and that's where we rehearsed the album. The album that we were going to do. Now, the album that we were going to do was co-written with my involvement, and it was the kind of album I wanted an LA band to make, which was like a cross between early Guns N' Roses and the kind of the punk scene that was going on there, but obviously with rock guitars. But I wanted, everyone in the band liked punk music. I just wanted a little bit of like an edge to it. And we were writing songs. They were great. And we were playing them. And we were, singing 3-part harmony. A lot of good singers in here. Scott Coogan, like I said, was a great singer. Scott Sorry is a really good singer. I Can Hold Me Own. So the harmonies were there. We would listen to the rehearsal tapes and be like, this is fucking great. What a great sounding band. I was happy as fuck. And Scott Sorry was living in the lodge house above the lodge with me. For a little while, but we were just having a great time. It just felt like I found my home. And then Tracy started turning up with, well, we're going to do this song on the album and this song on the album. And he had these songs he'd been recording himself. That sounded like Iron Maiden. Nothing wrong with Iron Maiden if you like Iron Maiden, which I don't. And I was just like, I don't want to play twin Adrian Smith, Dave Murray guitar parts. My thing's like, the most glam I can go is like Izzy and Slash, because it was, there was a punk element there, rock and roll element, a metal element. It was a good blend of stuff. I didn't want to do dual solos and widdly widdly stuff. And I was just like, I don't want to do this if this is the songs we're going to do. And we were stopping writing together, and the whole thing was kind of steered in this way where Tracy and London were kind of looked like they were spearheading it and stuff. London was singing songs about Lady Godiva, and again, if you like Iron Maiden or Dio and Lady Godiva and Dragons and all that, great, but it's not me, If it isn't got some basis on stuff that's going on, it's just not me. Anyway, I said to Tracy, look, I don't think this is going to work out. You're going this way and I'm heading in this direction. And he said, well, I've got you under contract. He'd give us these contracts to sign. Obviously, I'm not going to sign a fucking contract with, get me in a position where I don't want to be in. So I signed it Ginger. And I said to him, Tracy, I've signed it Ginger. Before I changed my name legally to Ginger, but didn't even have Ginger Wildheart, which is my fucking signature. And I went, Tracy, I haven't even signed it my proper name. You can't take me to court for this. And that was the last thing that we had. Unfortunately, that was the last time I ever spoke to Tracy. I've been in touch with him and we follow each other on Instagram, but I've never actually seen the guy and spoken to the guy. And like I said, I like Tracy and I like his personality. Fucking fantastic guitar player. But I just think the way that we went about this, and it was probably a lot my fault as well. It was just this. And now that's never going to work. So that's why I decided not to play with Brides of Destruction. And that's why there were songs on there that had lyrics that, it's fantasy metal. It's not my thing, Right, John Elston. Where do you find Charles Evans? I was so impressed by his performance at the recent gigs in Sheffield and Manchester. Right, well, when we recorded the album, we had a guy called Judge Gurdon, whose name in other bands is Cheb Nettles, and he plays the bands like Gong and Steve Hillage and stuff like that. He was involved with Gong with Carvers, and he's just going to be far too busy to do any live work. We had a gig booked in London. I don't know why we had this gig. It was this ridiculous idea that the Wildhearts were going to come back. We had a guy working with us. I won't even mention his name, but I'd known him for fucking years. Decades, since the early 90s. And he had this thing where the Wildhearts was going to come back and we were going to play Albert Hall. And I went, great. And then it went from the Albert Hall to the Palladium. And then it went from the Palladium to the fucking Shepherd's Bush Empire. And I'm just like, this comeback is looking less and less impressive every time the venue changes. And it was just like, we're contracted to do this gig anyway. We've got to do it. Dodge isn't available. And one of my favourite drummers was Pontus Snib, because he played with Jason and the Scorchers on a gig that I played with him. But he learnt the Jason and the Scorchers set flying from Sweden to Nashville. And I figured anyone who can do that is my kind of guy. So he learnt the songs. It was great. He was a single bass drum player. And as you've heard on the album now, it's double bass drums all the way. When I asked Rich to get involved after the demos, I would have had to change all of the arrangements, because obviously Rich doesn't play a double bass drum, which I was kind of prepared to do. But when he said no, I was like, great, I love double kick drum. We did the gig with Pontus. It went good. There was a good response, but it was never going to be the band that we could promote the album with. It was full of fucking kick drums. So we were doing the first set of B-sides, and our monitor guy called Jay Shredder, and Jay Shredder is this magic entity. He just joined us for the London gig doing monitors and persuaded me to do in-ears. But he just seems like if you ask him a question, he can do it. Whatever it is, it really doesn't matter. He's just this magic man who's super contacted. Well, we were going to do the B-sides, and I said to him, look, you know everyone. Do you know any drummers? Within minutes, he said, this guy, he stands in for all the sessions that I do. He's a great drummer, lovely guy. And he sent me a recording of Charles. Like, okay, he comes down and he's not a cunt, and he can play to a click, and he plays these B-sides really well. Then let's talk further. And Charles came down. Apart from the fact he's a fucking sweetheart of a guy, he's just like Ben. So it's like Ben and Charles are like the kind of brothers in the group. And it's just, the energy's fucking great. But it came down, he's a monster on the drums, especially double kick drum. He's fucking incredible. And I was just like, as soon as we started playing the B-sides, I'm just like, this is our guy. And the only thing could go wrong is if he doesn't want to do it. Fortunately, he did. Had our drummer. That's how we met Charles Evans. And he was more than willing to do the video for Troubadour Moon because we couldn't find anyone to do it. Fucking hair's in a right mess today. I just come back from tour and I feel like a right state, but fuck it. When you get off tour, you got to decompress. You should decompress, and I've decided I'm not going to decompress. I'm just going to dive right into the next podcast. Here I am in all my shabby glory. Andrew Holmes says, would you consider doing another live in the studio performance with a new lineup similar to the one you did for the White Album all those years ago? I hate to be the one that tells you Santa doesn't exist, but that wasn't live. It was a trick that Tim Smith used where he had live drums and live vocals and live lead guitar. So I was live and the solos were live and Rich was live and the rest of it was not live. So it's half live. The backing vocals and the bass and the guitar are mimed. Again, I feel like I'm, bursting people's bubbles here, but we're all grown-ups and I'm focused on the moment. And if something happened in the past, I don't mind telling you the fucking truth about what happened, but live in the studio wasn't live. The Wildhearts have never played live in the studio. We didn't even record backing tracks together. It would be me and Rich. Sometimes I wasn't even me. It was just Rich because he'd learned the drums so fucking amazingly well. But we weren't the kind of band that went and recorded things live. The current lineup is, I'm not comparing or saying which one's better or worse, but we could do something like that now is all I'm saying. So yeah, I would consider doing a live in the studio thing, and that's why.